Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name's Steve Tedford. I'm one of the command service officers at the headquarters. Right beside me, I believe, in the video is Ken George. He's the other command service officer here. And thanks a lot for taking your personal time to be here today. So this is frankly an experiment. The command has not done a presentation like this. So fingers crossed everything will go smoothly. I hope I just didn't jinx it. But we're in a good spot today. Thanks to Comrade Joanne Geddes for letting us use the Centennial branch here in Dartmouth. With some what seems like a really good internet connection. The format today, we're asking everyone, and if you haven't noticed already, everyone is muted except for the speaker, and we're also turning off everyone's video just because we don't know how stable the internet connection is here, so we don't want to take any chances. We don't have any planned breaks throughout the seminar. So if you need to come and go for breaks, please do that on your own. The timings that we've worked on, we don't expect to be here past 1 o'clock. With the timings that we've practiced, we're hoping to be done sometime between 12 and 1 o'clock. That's fair to say. Yeah. And because of the format that we're using, we've decided that the easiest way to deal with questions is to have areas in the presentation for questions. So I'll be doing the first set of slides, and at the end of the slides that I'm going to be presenting, there'll be a question slide. That will be your opportunity to ask questions. And so that I know you have a question, if you'd use your reaction button down on the bottom toolbar and show the little yellow hand, then I'll know someone has a question and we'll call on you. Yeah, I think that's everything. We're really glad and honored to have President Friday Cook here, and we're just asking you, ma'am, if you'd like to say a few words to everybody before we start.
Well, first of all, I would like everybody to take a moment, and we'll have a moment of silence on the passing of Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. And at the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Thank you. Good morning, comrades, and welcome to Nova Scotia Nunavut Command's webinar encompassing the roles and duties of our service officers, both in the branch and at command, our role within Veterans Affairs Canada, and the VIP program. Also today, we will be apprised of the proper use of the Poppy Trust Fund and Command's Benevolent Fund and our many outreach programs that are supported by our command. I'd like to thank you all for attending this morning, and I hope you have an enjoyable day. The veterans in our command will be better served if we are better informed. The program today has been put together by our service officers, Comrade Stephen Tedford and Ken George, and our Executive Director, Valerie Mitchell-Vino. And I see we have a big agenda today, so I'd like to turn it over to them at this time, and enjoy your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Okay, so just bear with me for a few seconds. We're working with a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to bring up the PowerPoint presentation, so that's all you'll see on my screen. Yeah, hi, good morning. And like I said, at the end of each presentation, there'll be a designated question slide. So please hold your questions till then. So what are our expectations of today? Well, it's to give you all a functional understanding of the role as a branch service officer in working with Provincial Command and the Provincial Command Service Officer. Our expectations are not to make anyone here today an expert on any of the things that we're talking about. That's just not possible in the amount of time that we have and the amount of information that we're going to share with you. But we need you to understand and take in some key things that we're going to bring to your attention, and that you have a functional understanding of what your roles are, what our roles are, and what all of our roles are. If you take away anything today, it'll be how to use the RCL claim form, refer people to VAC, to the command service officers, and know that Ken and myself and Valerie are here all the time if you have questions about anything that we're presenting today. Oh.
If they receive the slides, maybe just me.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't share.
Hang in, folks. It's just going to be the first glitch. Go to your slide, make it big.
Okay, my apologies, folks. So this was the slide that I just referred to. So all the service officers, command and branch, fall into the section of the Royal Canadian Legion, which is called Veteran Services, and that's what I'm gonna talk about a little bit. And the first word in that section is veteran. So this is the Royal Canadian Legion's definition of a veteran. It's a person who has served or has honorably served in the CAF, the Commonwealth, or its wartime allies, or as a regular member of the RCMP, or as a peace officer in a special duty area or on a special duty operation, or who has served in the Merchant Navy or the Ferry Command during wartime.
Chicken? Name's not chicken. I look like a chicken to you? No, sir. Not even a little. Name's Ruth.
Yeah, you're gonna have to check that.
Hey, this is
A little general information about the kinds of services that the Veteran Services section provides. And that's assisting veterans and their families. So this is things like being an information and referral service to veterans in your community that come to you for help and information. Something that we find very helpful in Nova Scotia is something called NS 211. Now that's a phone number, 211 is a phone number, and it's also a website, and it's a provincial information network. And you can glean a lot of information in the province and in your community that can be helpful to veterans that come to you and ask questions or seeking assistance. Programming directed to veterans and their families in need. So this is things like creating programming in your branch. things like coffee socials to figure out what veterans are in your area, to doing food drives. Things like that are examples of creating programming in your community, and there are probably programs already in place in your branches, I'm sure. What we call those programming at command is our outreach, and Valerie's going to talk about that later on. Advocacy, where issues affecting veterans need to be addressed. So advocacy, the mind goes to right away Veterans Affairs, but that doesn't necessarily mean Veterans Affairs. That could mean at a branch level that you are, I'm sorry, it could mean Veterans Affairs at a branch level. If a veteran comes to you and is already a Veteran Affairs client and they want to ask some questions about the benefits that they have, there's nothing stopping you, and you should get an audience with that veteran, call Veterans Affairs, and you can advocate for that veteran on a phone call to Veterans Affairs and get those questions answered. You don't necessarily need to ask Ken or I for our experience on situations. You certainly, one of your duties and roles is to advocate to Veterans Affairs in that way, shape, or form. What it might look like at the command service officer level is an example of a veteran needing assistance with their case manager. They may not totally understand all the benefits and jargon or Veterans Affairs speak that their case manager is talking about in assisting them. So Ken and I can shoulder to shoulder with that veteran, be a moderator with a person's case manager. And we've done that, and we do that. So what does the Veteran Services Network look like? Well, across the country, there's around 1,400 branch volunteer service officers in our network. And there are around 25 command service officers in our network. Okay, certainly. We're getting a little feedback from mics. If everyone could please just ensure that they've muted their mics, that would be wonderful. Thanks. And certainly, that's why we're here. We'll get into the roles and responsibilities of branch service officers and command service officers a little bit later in the presentation. So service officers in the Veteran Service Network, what kind of things do we do? Well, we do counseling. Now, these are words from the national office. Don't let counseling mislead you. I am not a professional, a medical professional. I am not a mental health professional. So I can't provide that kind of counseling. But what I can do is I can connect with a veteran. I can listen to what they have to say, listen to their issues. I can be empathetic for them. I can give them direction from my personal experience, if I want to share that in the military and with Veterans Affairs, to help them deal with any issues that they're bringing to me. That is how we interpret counseling. Assistance, that's a little easier to define. So that's helping a veteran with Veterans Affairs. That's helping a veteran with financial benevolent assistance. That's helping a veteran or assisting a veteran with respect to our programming, our outreach programming. And the benevolent assistance area will be covered by Valerie in her portion of the presentation. Representation. And the first thought of representation goes to Veterans Affairs usually. And that's what Ken and I do at a command service officer level. We formally represent folks with Veterans Affairs daily. But that can happen at the branch level as well. And not simply representation with Veterans Affairs, but you can be the trusted person that makes a connection with the veteran in your community if they need representation to go to a doctor's appointment, and they may need a mediator there, someone to help understand what the doctor is talking about to them, or to a bank appointment. Those are some examples that the branch service officer can represent a veteran in their community. So continuing with the network, branch service officers, the grassroots of the network. The branch service officers are the eyes and ears of the Veteran Services Network. You folks, branch service officers, live in the communities in the same communities where the veterans are who are going to seek you out and who you are going to seek out. You are usually the first contact with veterans and their families in your community. They're going to reach out to the Legion and seek you out for assistance. Having said that, the Royal Canadian Legion policy, and we'll get into this in more detail a little later, is that branch service officers are required, if a veteran comes to them and wants to put in a disability claim to Veterans Affairs, branch service officers are required to make that referral to the command service officer. Command service officers are the only ones who are in the Royal Canadian Legion allowed to represent a veteran on a disability claim. So where are command service officers located? So those 25 command service officers that are in the country, well, there's at least one in every provincial command, and some have assistants, and the rest are in Dominion Command. And so Dominion Command service officers, mainly with respect to veteran services, mainly deal with appeals on Veterans Affairs decisions. We're not going to get into all of the duties and responsibilities of Dominion Command service officers, but one thing that you should take away from this is they deal with Canadian veterans living outside of Canada, and they're also responsible for dealing with allied veterans living inside of Canada. They should be referred to a Dominion Command, or at the very least, a Dominion Command should be brought into the conversation if one of those types of veterans reaches out to us. My mouse just died. So what are command service officers? Well, we're employees of the Royal Canadian Legion. We undergo an enhanced security check by the RCMP, and we also go through a security check to get a low-level government security clearance, so that we can use Veterans Affairs computer systems and deal with Veterans Affairs information. We attend regular training courses. The first initial course is at Dominion Command, and that's called the Command Service Officer course. So that would be our indoctrination course, about a week long at Dominion Command, learning how to be a command service officer and learning about all of the partners that are out there that work with the Legion and that we work with. We also every year have professional development. on alternate years, we will have a regional service officer conference. So everyone in the different regions around the country will have a regional service officer professional development conference. And every alternate year, there will be a national professional development conference in Charlottetown, PEI, and that is where VAC employees from the disability unit and the VAC offices there will come and give us up-to-date training on VAC things. Unfortunately, we haven't done any of this since 2019 because of COVID, and it doesn't look like we're going to be doing any of this till at least next year, but fingers crossed. We're also eligible because of the security clearances that we hold and the memorandum of understanding that the Legion has with Veterans Affairs. We're eligible to use the Veterans Affairs computer wide area network, and Ken and I have that wide area network in our office. On that wide area network is an application called CSDN. That is a computer application that is used for a number of things, but mainly what Ken and I use it for is to create and work on and submit disability claims to Veterans Affairs for veterans. Another application on that wide area network allows us to access veterans service health records, which Veterans Affairs gets from base hospital, library and archives, the military, wherever it is. And that allows us to go through our process and help veterans with disability claims to Veterans Affairs. All the nitty gritty of this stuff will be talked about later on in the brief. And probably one of the most important things that we're charged to do is what we're doing today, and that's train branch service officers, train all you volunteers that are taking your time for the cause. And my mouse keeps, there we go. So the lion's share of command service officers' work in our command is assisting veterans with Veterans Affairs Canada. And that is a number of ways there's a broad range of how we can assist a veteran to do disability claims to Veterans Affairs. We can help them help themselves if they want to do the claims themselves. We can be a resource for them to ask questions and ask for our experience, or we can formally represent them and deal with Veterans Affairs on their behalf. Most often that is the help that we give the veterans. And the folks that we're helping are still serving CAF members, CAF veterans, RCMP veterans, and still serving RCMP. We're trained to deal with all stages of disability claims, and we'll get into those stages in subsequent slides. And those are first applications all the way up to co-representing a department called the Bureau of Pension Advocates in appeals at the Veterans Review and Appeal Board. And we'll talk about that stuff in a little more detail in subsequent slides. We are also very experienced and educated on other VAC programs and benefits. So we're certainly not subject matter experts on every VAC program and benefit. I would argue not very many people are, but we deal with other programs and benefits a lot, meaning things like the Veterans Independence Program, the Vocational Rehab Program, the Caregiver Recognition Benefit, long-term care applications. We're not experts on those things, but we can give information and advice on those things. And we would certainly, if we couldn't answer someone's question, we always refer them to VAC employees about that stuff, because they are the experts on those other programs and benefits. So we wanted to show some statistics from the last few years that you and we and all of us have contributed to. Ken and my first full year in this job was 2017. And with your help, we handled around 486 VAC files. We also made around 12 home visits in the HRM that year. Now, home visits are similar to home visits that you would make, but for us, that's mostly for helping people in their homes that can't get out of their homes or don't feel comfortable getting out of their homes or don't feel comfortable meeting somewhere else. We go help those folks with forms in their homes. So we had around 110 favorable decisions and 15 unfavorable that first year, and that equated to around $4 million in pain and suffering compensation lump sum. Not only do veterans get financial compensation when they get a yes on a disability claim, but they also get medical benefits for that medical condition for the rest of their life. Whatever MSI or provincial healthcare won't look after, they get a Veterans Affairs medical card, and the government of Canada will look after whatever MSI doesn't cover. Now, Ken and I aren't experts on the medical benefits, but we also helped with 10 monthly pensions that year. So that increased in 2018 up to almost 800 VAC files that we dealt with. Everything increased. The number of home visits we made, the number of favorable decisions we had, the amount of money that we all helped get veterans for disability claims that year. In 2019, it increased again. So we all got, Ken and I dealt with your help, 877 VAC files that year, 47 home visits, 243 favorable decisions that year on disability claims. That added up to around $13 million for in the pockets of veterans. And this money that we're talking about is tax-free money. Last year in 2020, we thought it was going to be, we weren't sure what 2020 was going to look like because that's when COVID happened. We really weren't sure that we'd be handling as many veterans files that year, but we ended up handling 813 files last year, which we were surprised about, frankly. We made around 50 home visits. Now in 2019 and 2020, those home visits that are here also included home visits that we made for our Veterans Farm project, because we helped deliver food to veterans in the HRM. And that's a program that Valerie will talk about later on. So everything increased again in 2020, and we were pleasantly surprised about that. We had 274 favorable decisions, and we all helped veterans get around $19.5 million in disability award lump sum payments last year. So good work, everyone. Now we'll get into some of the duties and responsibilities of the branch service officer. I mean, that's why we're here. One of the roles of the branch service officer, as defined in the general bylaws and the service officer handbook and the branch manual, is that the branch service officer investigates POPI fund applications and makes recommendations for grants for things like food, clothing, shelter, necessities of life. And you're obligated to work closely with the branch POPI chair to make this happen. Now, having said this, Valerie will be your point of contact with respect to this topic. If you have any questions on this topic, and I'm going to touch on this another 2 or 3 times with respect to your with respect to branch service officer responsibilities, hold those questions for Valerie. Any questions you have right now, Mike might get answered when she does her presentation, but surely if they don't, bring them to Valerie's question period after she's done her presentation. So I already said that branch service officers are obligated to refer veterans to the command service officers for disability claims. And the way that this happens is through the Legion claim application form. That is a nationally created form, so that's why it's on the Dominion Command website. The link on the slide here is where you can find it. I'm also going to bring it up in a second, and we're going to go through it quickly. But before I do that, you also may find yourself in the position to assist veterans who have applications and paperwork in for claimed conditions at Veterans Affairs. Those will be registered claims that Ken and I make. And after we've gone through, and after we're at the spot in the process where that they need to complete, they may be living in your area. So they may be outside HRM and we can't physically help them with those forms. So they may reach out to you, or we may reach out to you and ask you to connect with them to help them work on those forms. Okay, just bear with me for a second, and I'm going to bring up the Legion claim application form. Okay, so this is the Royal Canadian Legion claim application form. A lot of it is self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go through every single one of these areas that look for information. But this is the form that we use, and all the service officers use, command and branch service officers, in order to get information and register veterans with Veterans Affairs and register their claims. So along the top is the veterans information. It's important if you're helping a female veteran that they provide any maiden name they have, and any name that they may have used, any other names that they may have had when they were in service. Areas lettered A, B, C, and D are signature areas. We need area A or B signed, and I'm going to paraphrase the definition of these. Area A is where the veteran requests our representation for an infinite amount of time until they put in writing that they don't want the Legion to represent them anymore. Area B is where the veteran wants representation until the claims that we are working on for them, which are stated on this form, are completed, and then our representation stops automatically. Veterans Affairs removes our access to that veteran's information at Veterans Affairs when the claims are all completed. Area C is optional. What Area C is, it's the veteran giving us permission to use decision information from their claim to help other veterans that we're helping who have the same kind of claims in. And that's not using their personal information, that's just using the decision words and phrases and things that Veterans Affairs has used to come to a decision on their claim. Sometimes Veterans Affairs makes mistakes. So if a veteran lets us use their decision information, we can sometimes, and we have, turned around decisions based on them letting us use their decision information. That's what C is all about. Particulars are pretty self-explanatory. The service number of the veteran, the rank if they remember it, their marital status, the number of dependents that they have living in their home, their work home cell, the name of the applicant if it's someone else besides the veteran. Sometimes a power of attorney can, not sometimes, a power of attorney can put in a claim for a veteran, and that's where the name of the applicant should go. The address, the mailing address of the veteran, that's very important that this is the mailing address, because we are transferring some of this information to a Veterans Affairs form, but we're also using this information to mail correspondence to the veteran. So it's very important that this is their mailing address. Their date of birth, if they're deceased, and we can put claims in for a deceased veteran, that goes in there. Ken's going to get into the nitty-gritty about this stuff a little later on. Their date of enrollment and their date of release. They don't have to remember the exact calendar date. Sometimes a month and a year are good enough. If they're still serving, you can put that in the date of release. Just put still serving. Their MOC or MOS ID, if they can remember it, that's a numerical code for their military occupation. Some can remember it, some can't. Some veterans did not have those number IDs for their occupations. You can just write their occupation in there. 6 is where if the veteran has any kind of relationship with Veterans Affairs with respect to disability entitlement. So if they have put in claim granted, if they have a VAC file number, that's also called a K number. It's a 7-digit number. And we also need some valid proof of ID for the veteran. So a government ID that is not expired, preferably with a photo on it. We do not need ID for the spouse unless it's a claim to the Pension Act, which is an RCMP officer or someone who has war service. And line number 8 is where we're going to put the name of the claim that we want to submit for the veteran. The easiest way that Ken and I have come to determine this is use body parts. So a shoulder, a right or left shoulder, a right or left knee, a hip, the heart, a head injury. If it's a hearing condition, then you do use the phrase hearing loss or tinnitus. If it's a mental health condition, then the easiest way is to just name it mental health condition. And then the veteran needs to sign Area D. That's where they're also giving us permission to have access to their service health records, which we're going to ask Veterans Affairs to get. I think that's pretty good. Okay, just so that is the, oh, I'm sorry. And it's always helpful to have the branch service officer put their name on the bottom so that we know who this person has reached out at the branch. So if they reach out to us and say, I would like some help with the things that you're sending me, we know who connected with them. And lastly, if I can, please do your best to print legibly on this form, because Ken and I have to take a lot of this information from this form and put it on a registration form. So it's, sometimes it's time consuming trying to read folks' writing. So if you could print very legibly on this form, we'd really appreciate that. Okay, so just give me a moment. I'm going to change back to the PowerPoint presentation. And the next slide is again all about the claim application form, which I went through. Some bullets there with some different circumstances. If someone is doing a claim for with a power of attorney or a deceased member, they need that power of attorney. They need the death certificate. They also need a marriage certificate, along with the ID of the veteran and the ID of the person that's putting in the claim. If you are completing this form for an RCMP member, we must also include what's called a VAC 928, and that's a consent form for Veterans Affairs to talk to the RCMP and ask them for medical records of that RCMP member. Ken's going to go through that 928 a little later on. And just reiterating the identification that's required when we fill this form out and we send it on to whoever needs it. And I already covered that power of attorney in the last slide. Okay, so some more duties and responsibilities of the branch service officer. General responsibilities of the branch service officer should also include, and like I said earlier, these are probably already in place, but establishing outreach programs to contact veterans in your community. Trying to figure out who's in your community, letting them know that you're there and you're there to help. And that's not just Legion member veterans, that's all veterans in your community based on our definition of a veteran. Maintaining a liaison with Ken and I. And sometimes we get inquiries about how things are going with veterans that the branch service officer brings to us. And if there's updates on the claims that they've put in, sometimes you'll get that veteran reach out to you and say, yes, I put a claim in a couple months ago. What's going on with that? Give Ken and I a call. There is some information, we can share some information with you. Some information we're not allowed to share with you because of security reasons, but we can certainly give you enough information to share with the veteran how things are going. Assist veterans in completing the Legion claim form. So the Legion claim form that I just went through is kind of our bread and butter form to get help from Veterans Affairs and put claims in. And you may have to sit at somebody's kitchen table and help them fill it out. This is going to be touched on a couple times, and that's because it's very important. we need the branch service officers and the branches to understand that branch service officers need to refer veterans and their families to command service officers for assistance with VAC disability claims. And I think I said this earlier, but in our organization, the command service officers are the only service officers in our network that are allowed to represent veterans as an RCL employee or volunteer as a member of the RCL network to Veterans Affairs. Touching on financial assistance, so processing requests with financial assistance through the Branch Poppy Trust Fund Committee. Again, this topic, if you have any questions about this, and I'm sure you do, Valerie will be covering this later, so please save your questions for then. Thanks. Confidentiality. Confidentiality is very, very important. Respecting the confidentiality of the individual that comes to you for help and any of their family members that are coming to you for help. You need to have, and you probably already have this in place, but any paperwork that's generated for the veteran or the family member, you need to keep under lock and key. And you only are allowed to have access to that unless you have an assistant. Just bear with me here for a second, and I'm going to open up a confidentiality form. So this is a declaration of confidentiality form that we ask to be presented to all the service officers, understand, fill out, and sign and be witnessed by the zone or district commander or the branch president at your installation. If that hasn't happened for you, please get a hold of Ken and I after Monday, and we will provide you with this form. Confidentiality is a cornerstone of how we is one of the cornerstones of how we deal with veterans. They come to us and expect to be anonymous and have anonymity in our organization. So what that means is when a veteran comes to you, you are not allowed to divulge any of that veteran's information, not even their name, to anyone except Ken and I. If anyone is telling you otherwise, you need to let Ken and I know that, because that is the confidentiality policy. Okay, thanks. And that confidentiality is not only with respect to Veterans Affairs information, it's also with respect to the next topic on the slide here, Poppy Trust Fund and financial assistance. And again, this topic will be covered by Valerie later on. So please save any questions or comments to put to Valerie afterwards. Thanks. Okay, we thought it was prudent to throw some bullets, some lessons learned, and some good to know things that we have learned about service officer responsibilities and our responsibilities between each other over the last few years. one good rule of thumb is how you follow up with an inquiry. When a veteran reaches out to you, we work with a 24-hour timeline. So at the very most, you should endeavor to take no more than 24 hours to get back to a veteran that has reached out to you. Don't ever forget that you are a volunteer, and be very conscious of your own time. Your own personal time is valuable, and that's what you're using to volunteer for this cause and to help veterans. But if you overwork yourself, if you burn yourself out, then you're not putting yourself in a position where you're helping yourself or your family or the folks that were or the veterans and families that we're all trying to help. Never endanger personal safety. If you don't feel comfortable engaging with somebody just with you and them, whether it's in your office, whether it's in their home, then don't put yourself in that situation. If you feel comfortable having a second person with you whenever you meet with somebody, please do that. And now with COVID in place, that's even more prominent, personal safety. So whatever your comfort level is with dealing with folks in your community with the pandemic happening now, at Command, we have stopped for quite a while. We don't meet people face to face anymore. We don't make house calls anymore. We deal with veterans, and it's become almost pretty much the norm. We deal with veterans through email, over phone calls, through snail mail, and even in Zoom meetings. Do not engage in financial or legal matters. We are not financial advisors. We are not legal advisors. Please do not get yourself in a position where you are giving someone financial or legal advice. You could get yourself in a kettle of hot water. The only exception would be is if someone has asked you to help maybe fill out some forms. That's okay, but we are not financial advisors, and we are not legal advisors. Ensure a veteran, when you're filling out the Royal Canadian Legion claim application, ask the veteran if they've already put in a claim for what they're asking help for. Ask them if they've been denied that claim, or ask them if the claim is already in process and they're just waiting for an answer. That's very helpful to Ken and I. And if you can put that on the form somewhere, that's very helpful to us. Maintain a professional approach at all times. I don't think I need to go any further than that, but let's all remember we're a representative of the Royal Canadian Legion when we meet folks. Don't create unrealistic expectations for the veteran or the family member that's come to you for help. The best example I can give of this is a lot of people don't understand a program at Veterans Affairs called the Veterans Independence Program. And Ken's going to go into that later on and also talk about the form for that. But except for other than two exceptions for eligibility for that program, a veteran needs to have a favorable disability claim to be eligible to apply for that program. We get a lot of veterans who have never had any kind of relationship with Veterans Affairs come to us and say, we need help around the house, we need help around the yard. That's what the Veterans Independence Program provides. If a veteran does not meet two of those other criteria or have a favorable disability claim, they are not eligible to apply for that program. And if we fill out forms, or if you fill out forms for the Veterans Independence Program and send them to Veterans Affairs and or send them to Ken and I, and they're not eligible for that, that is creating some unrealistic expectations for those veterans. I don't think I need to talk about confidentiality anymore. It's paramount. The anonymity of the folks that we help is very, very important. Please use the proper forms. I went over the RCL Legion form. Ken's going to go over some of the Veterans Affairs forms. Valerie is going to go over the financial assistant, the benevolent fund form. Other requests from Veterans Affairs. Like I said earlier, you folks not used to talking this long. Trust me, if you knew me, this is a stretch. So branch service officers are in a position to help a veteran that comes to them and says, hey, listen, I need some advice or some questions answered on some Veterans Affairs benefits. That is an expectation on branch service officers to help with that. And how you can do that is simply have an audience with the veteran and call Veterans Affairs at that toll-free number and talk to a client service agent and ask them questions about the Veterans Independence Program. That's what VIP is. Or we didn't put it in here, but the vocational rehab program, or the CRB, which is the caregiver recognition benefit. Or long-term care. That's what long-term care is. The VAC employees are the experts on those things. So you don't need to make a phone call or send an email to Ken and I to ask questions about this stuff. If a veteran has a question, you can certainly represent that that veteran in their home or at the branch and call Veterans Affairs and get some questions answered and information for the veteran. That's an expectation on the branch service officer. Don't forget, when you're completing, especially the RCL claim application form, there needs to be some valid ID submitted with that, or Ken and I can't register the person until we have that. Okay, so we're gonna change course a bit. That was a lot of general stuff and a lot of duties and responsibilities of all of us in the network, the whole team. And now we're going to talk about disability applications. And in a couple slides later, we're going to have a spot where we can ask questions. So thanks, Vince, but I'm gonna hold off on checking on your question till we get to our question slide. So disability applications. This is a big part of what we all do. And it's a process. So the first part of the process is what's called a first application. And this is the very first time that a veteran puts in an application for a disability benefit. Something Ken and I assist with is establishing cause and effect and a link for the medical condition to military service. That is really what Veterans Affairs is charged to do also, but Ken and I have the resources and the references to help the veteran bring this forward as well. The second part of the process is called a departmental review. So if the first application is unfavorable, that is when we're in a position to ask Veterans Affairs to review or appeal their decisions. And the very first level of an appeal, and it's called the second level in this process, is a departmental review. So if a first application is unfavorable, we have the option to do a departmental review. And in order to do that, we need new evidence, either medical evidence or military established cause and effect evidence, or proof of an error in law. Now, an error in law, Cole's notes, is if the decision, the adjudicator made a mistake in using the Veterans Affairs policy. That's what an error in law, they call it an error in law. But what it really is if the adjudicator made a mistake in how they interpreted their own policy and how they used their policy to come to a decision. And so in order to do an appeal, we need new evidence, or we need to be able to poke holes in how they use their policy to come to a decision. And this is what my words would be the lowest level of a review for a disability application. And Ken and I do these departmental reviews. The next level in the process is called the third level. And so if a departmental review is unfavorable, then there's an option to do what's called an entitlement review. And that's where we also need new evidence or to find an error in law, but it's an opportunity for the applicant or the veteran to have an appeal hearing and give evidence in front of a panel of two adjudicators. Now, they may do this by themselves, or they may request a representative to help them with this, a representative from the Bureau of Pension Advocates, or the BPA, who are a section of government lawyers who provide a free service. They're in place to provide a free service to veterans who want to appeal disability decisions. Command service officers can co-represent in an entitlement review, which goes in front of the Veterans Review and Appeal Board. That's what VRAB stands for. Because of Ken's and my workload, we haven't been in a position to co-represent anyone in a VRAB appeal. So let's say that is unfavorable. Well, then there's an opportunity to go to the next level, and that's called an entitlement appeal. This is where the veteran has to have a representative, and it's from the Bureau of Pension Advocates, that's those pro bono lawyers, or a Dominion Command service officer. This is a review and appeal where the representative does all the talking and represents the veteran at the appeal. The veteran can be there when it happens, but they do not participate in this type of appeal. And this type of appeal could happen at a number of places across the country. It may not happen in the veterans province. So they are responsible, if they want to attend this appeal, to do that at their own expense. The last appeal option in the department's appeal options is called a reconsideration. So if all of these appeals are unfavorable, then something called a reconsideration can be looked at. And this is not a given. A veteran needs to have a representative from the BPA or Dominion Command Service Officer, and between the representative and the veteran, they need to bring all the information together, new evidence, and figuring out if there's been an error made. And then the representative makes a call on whether they feel that they will be successful in bringing this forward. If the representative feels that they may not be successful, then that's the no nonsense conversation that's going to be had with the veteran, and they may not move forward with a reconsideration. So all of those are options in the department to put in a claim and have it reviewed or appealed. If all of those are exhausted, then the only other avenue a veteran has is to go to the Supreme Court of Canada, and that is done on their own dime with their own legal representation. So a lot of talking there. If you work better with a visual representation, this is a flow chart of what I just talked about. So the first application into a departmental review, into an entitlement review after that, into an entitlement appeal after that, into a reconsideration possibly after that. And that exhausts all the Veterans Affairs Department review and appeal options. After that, it needs to go to a federal court if the veteran wants to continue. And all of these reviews and appeals only apply to disability applications. They don't apply to other benefits. There are ways to appeal other benefits, but this process only applies to disability applications. And Ken and I are experienced with how to do an appeal or a review on some other benefits. So if you find someone asking for help to appeal a caregiver recognition benefit that was denied, or a veterans independence application that was denied, please connect with us. We have experience with that stuff as well. Okay, so that's a lot of information in I think a short amount of time. But are there any questions on anything that I talked about? Keep in mind that, and I'm sorry I didn't say this at the start, but our intention is to put, this is being recorded right now, and our intention is to put this entire seminar on our website so that people can have access to watch this if they didn't get a chance to watch it, or review it if you were here. Okay. I only have two people here. Okay, just give me a second, Vince, and I'm going to unmute you and turn your video on. Okay. Hi, Vince. I've still got you unmuted. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, perfect.
Can you hear me now?
I can, sir. How you doing?
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation so far, and good morning to everybody here that's attending. I'm just a new service officer just taking over, and I must say that the information you passed out here this morning is contrary to everything I've been told. And I just want to run a question. So if I'm hearing you correct, anytime a veteran is applying for a disability or applying for some change to their pension, you deal with the command service officer or the provincial service officer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep, that's correct.
So I just for an example, had a gentleman looking to get a piece of equipment to help out his breathing. He was turned down by Veterans Affairs because apparently he's only been receiving his pension for a hearing loss.
Mm.
So this is outside the scope of what his pension was allowed for. He was turned down at his request to Veterans Affairs, but they told him to go back to his local branch and maybe receive help through the Property Trust Fund. I look at the application in the Property Trust Fund in the I can't see we would have the authority to give money out of the Poverty Trust Fund. Am I correct on that or what?
Well, that's a great question, and that's not something I'm going to tackle. That is what Valerie is going to talk about in her portion of the seminar today. So
Okay.
if you want to just hold on to that, and that might get answered in Valerie's presentation. And if it doesn't, just ask Valerie that question.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vince. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Okay, I'm gonna take my hand down and leave there for a
Okay.
second.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
I think Ron was the next one, wasn't it? Okay, Ron, we're going to go to you. Just give me a sec here and we'll unmute you, and you can unmute and start your video, please. Oh, where did Ron go? There he is.
Yeah, it should be there.
Yep, we got you. I can hear you great.
Yeah, okay. Just a question, not so much about the benefits and the claims and all that. The presentation decks that you have, would it be possible to get copies sent to me?
Certainly. We might even endeavor to get this this presentation put on our webpage somehow, so that all you folks can log in and use it or download it. We're trying to figure out how to do that as well. But yes, certainly. Just send me an email next week, and I'd be happy to share this with you. Yeah, we'd be happy to share this with you.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Ron Cooper was next. That's who was supposed to be next. Ron Cooper, we're going to ask you to unmute and bring your video up, please.
I believe I'm there.
Yep, hi, gotcha. Loud and
Hi.
clear.
How are you? Thanks for doing this, guys. Just a simple quick question. The service officer handbook, I just Googled it. I don't see an access to it on our Nova Scotia website, but I did bring it up on Google. I got a copy of it. I was just wondering, it's dated 2013. So my question is that the most recent service officer guide that's out there?
The one that you Googled may not be, but the most current one is on the Dominion Command website. That's where that document is kept. So if you're a Legion member, you have a login. You're able to log into to a member portal there, and that's where you can get the most up-to-date copy. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's all I've gotten for now. Thank you.
Okay, super. Okay, Byron, we're going to ask you to unmute and turn your video on, please. Do somebody else? Keith? There he is.
I think Jim Muckle is next in your list there. I don't know how I got up at the top, but anyway, if you want to deal with him or anybody before me, that's fine. I'm going to make just a point. That's all, not a question.
Go right ahead. You're on here loud and clear. So please continue.
Okay. Just by the way, this has been an excellent presentation thus far, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
You had mentioned about making sure that the veteran hasn't made an application prior for the same disability or the same request. And unfortunately, many of the people, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, are elderly veterans, and they may have made an application 20 years ago, and because of cognition or memory loss or whatever, they don't recall that they put in and that they've been getting benefits for 20 years. So just for the service officers who maybe haven't done this sort of thing much before, just bear that in mind. And unfortunately, I know even me, I've probably slipped a couple your way that were probably had been dealt with a number of years earlier. So that will happen for you, unfortunately.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's all, but thank you.
No, thanks for sharing that. go to Jim. I'm going to ask Jim to. Okay, Jim Muckle, if you can unmute and turn your video on, please.
Okay, coming, I think.
Yeah.
Can you see me there? Let's see.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Gotcha. 5
Thanks.
by 5.
Okay, thanks very much. And thanks for this, Steve. Great material and a refresher and new stuff. It's wonderful, very helpful. Thank you. A question similar to Ron's and on accessing slide decks and the video materials and so on. I thought you mentioned maybe putting it on the website, maybe maybe separate links might be useful. You know, we can say, well, okay, I really want to get a copy of Steve's because it's good checklist and so on. And I'm looking forward to the others to come. And I don't know what they're going to look like, but maybe just an area that we could all go to. And if you might send us all little information on that, then if that works from your end, then we'd be all set. And a suggestion for future ones. I know I've done a bunch of training in areas too, and there's always a judgment call between providing the slide deck ahead of time because there are issues around attention and whether you want people to think that they've already heard it when you've got new stuff to add to the points on the slides and so on. So I'm torn. I just want to kind of raise that issue that there may be situations where providing people with the slide deck ahead of time helps them to get even more out of it, in part because then they can make notes beside the points as they're doing rather than making their own notes from scratch. So just as odd. So thanks so much again for doing this, and looking forward to the rest as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for that input. I appreciate that.
You bet.
I don't have anyone else. Do you see any more hands up there? Okay, folks. Well, thanks. Great questions. I don't see any more questions here, so we're going to carry on. I'm going to turn the PowerPoint over to Ken George, and I'm just going to stop sharing here, Ken. I don't think I need to do anything else except unmute. Okay.
So bring up the slide before we start. Sure. You may as well. Why won't that go big? Uh-oh. Oh, there it goes. A little slow, old computer. What I want to discuss with you folks today is the first application process for disability, where we all start. See there. Oh, Keith, you want to turn your video off, please? And you're mute. Oh, who can apply for disability award and compensation? Serving former members of the Armed Forces, the RCMP, former merchant Navy with wartime service, and there are certain civilian RCMP employees that can apply. Survivor, the spouse, common law partner, there are times we can help them and get some benefits. So now dependent children, that's only some instances. What happens there is if that dependent child is solely dependent on the veteran, even though no matter what age, if he's solely dependent on the veteran, then there may be some things also there. Now, if somebody's acting for the veteran, we're going to, as a legal representation, we need a copy of the power of attorney. That should be a process. You should get a copy of that, send it also with it, with the application. And with that also, we're going to need identification for the power of attorney. Now, disability benefits or Department of Review steps and process. Okay. Veteran completes the Canadian Legion's application. Service officer assist if required. That includes the 928 for RCMP, which I'll go over in a little bit. That they have to have that. Again, we need proof of identification attached to it. We need to submit all documents to command officer, preferably by mail. That requires us to have original signatures on the documents. So when it comes to Veterans Affairs documents that we have sent to veterans that are coming back to us, we need the originals. when it comes to the Royal Canadian Legion claim application form, that can be faxed, but we'll need the original sent to us after the fact. If you fax it to us, then we can get or email it. We can start the process. Now, when we get that point, we create a file, we sign an RCL file number to it, and we open claim with Veterans Affairs. And then on our behalf, they will get the service house records downloaded from either the military if they're serving or the library and archives, and all if they've been out for a long time like myself. Okay. Oh, geez. My screen just messed up. Figures. Knew that was going to happen sooner or later. Hang on, folks, bear with me. Okay. My screen's cut off. I can't believe this. Just me a sec, folks. Okay. Once we get everything done, we got to determine if there is a possible claim after we do our research. And there must be a diagnosis for the injury that it has to be related to the service. Lots of times we're starting to get things now like, well, I got a lot of pain, you know, my back hurts, or well, the back's a little different. We might be able to get something there from what we call mechanical lower back pain. But we get, you know, sore shoulder, sore knees, things like that. We need a diagnosis from the physician. If they're outside, there will be a medical questionnaire sent to the veteran along with the package. So, but if they're still serving, we'll get that information from their files. Okay. Now, once we gather all that together at our office, we'll put together a cover letter, and then we'll get things. Okay. When we also send the packages out, we try to let them know who the local service officer is in their area. That way, they can get hold of you if they need assistance, if they want somebody local. Don't worry, we'll not give out your phone number. We'll just give out your name and the branch phone number and get hold of you that way. Now, when you see the forms and letters that we send out, there is a 60-day time limit for the veteran to complete all these documents, unless they give us a call. Now, we got to put some kind of time limit on, so hopefully that'll kind of motivate the veteran to do a little faster. But we understand now, of course, because of COVID and everything else, it's so hard to see a doctor. So if they can't do that, just have them give us a call. So we're in the loop and we'll know that it's going to be a while. Because it gets to a certain point that we have no choice. We have to withdraw the claim, but that won't interfere with the veteran's claim. The way I can explain that is he's withdrawn, but if he comes forward now with all the paperwork, medical questionnaires, everything back to us, we can reopen the claim easily. We just send what we call a work item. Once the claim is reopened, we send it all in. Now, it doesn't affect the veteran where he is in the queue because he's not in the queue. You don't go in the queue until all the paperwork is submitted. And then they assign it what's called the standard service start date. That is when you're in the queue. So before then, you're not. So it's not going to affect them. So they all of a sudden, you hear from a veteran saying, "Oh my God, my claim's been withdrawn." That's all that's happened. Okay, now if you withdraw it because of no evidence or something like that, we'll contact the veteran directly, talk to them, and see if we can somehow find a way of getting a proper diagnosis of their condition. Okay, so now that we send that all out, now it comes back to us with the supporting documentation, and we do what calls an 843, just in a form from Veterans Affairs, the checklist. That checklist is that we put together is the list of conditions. We listed others, regular service, veteran, reserve, RCMP, but we have to include the diagnosis and where it's located. So if it's in their medical files, we just tell them, volume 6, page 2. Or if it's nothing in the medical files, it could be a medical questionnaire they've had, and then we'll just tell the diagnosis is the medical questionnaire. Now, you also can request what is called a red zone. Now, red zones are usually for dire situations such as non-met medical needs, or the veteran needs medical care right away. Senior veterans over 80 years old, we can request a red zone for them. So it's just something that puts them to the front of the line, and we usually get a response pretty quick, usually within a few weeks. Actually, we've got them back a lot faster than that sometimes. So But it has to be very strict. There is very strict regulations as to the red zone request. And then we put it all together before Charlottetown for adjudication. And we also send a letter, of course, telling them we've done so. We don't go to Matan, Quebec. We send everything straight to Charlottetown, so it goes right into the system right away. Matan, when you see that address on all the forms mailed to Matan, it's just a scanning center. So it gets scanned to the system. And sometimes it slows things down a little bit. So it comes straight to us and we'll get it done properly. And once we get the decision from Veterans Affairs, and we always are notified immediately when the decision's made, we will advise the veteran of the decision, whether it's favorable, unfavorable. And if it's unfavorable, we'll find some kind of a possible departmental review or something like that. But if it's successful, then veterans usually pretty happy and we carry on from there. And one of the things when we are doing our research, we're not just looking for the condition that the veteran's claiming. Lots of times they don't understand what they're allowed to claim for. So, for example, if I have a veteran who's got bad arthritis in his knee, I go through his files, and all of a sudden I see his hearing test. His hearing's been decreasing over the years. If it meets a certain criteria, I'll let them know that we can put in a claim for hearing loss and tinnitus, or other things we may find. Okay, and of course, the letter decision and the options for appeal are sent out. We try to monitor our files and do follow-ups down the road. When we go through things, we see something. We'll contact the veteran again, make sure things are going well. If you require any help, or possibly another claim, or maybe a reassessment on the condition that they have now. This is the one I hate. Official turnaround time, GAT. Go to the veteran's website, and if you got MyVac account, you can follow your applications, and then you may see something that says, "Oh, it's on step 3," and you click on that, and it says, you want turnaround time. Well, if you look at that, it takes you out of the site. You go to another page with Veterans Affairs. You answer a few questions, and it's going to tell you, "Oh, this is only going to take 47 weeks, 22 weeks. Some take 72 weeks." I don't buy that for 1 second, and neither does anybody we know. It's just they have to have something. So I don't abide by it. What I tell my clients is that when it's in the system, it's in, and we have to play the good old waiting game. So there's nothing we can do to hurry it up once it's in the system, unless the situation changes that the veteran, we can qualify him into a red zone, then we can request that upgrade. This is why I say we should be encouraged to contact the RCL for assistance on the initial intent to submit a claim. This causes also continuity. We can follow it all the way through, and we can advise and counsel the veteran all the way through too. Okay, let's see. Filling out the VAC forms. That 928 we're talking about. This form must be completed by all RCMP officers. And I think I'm going to try and bring that up right now. Okay. Oops, now I lost my whole screen. Yeah, I'm not very technologically advanced here. Yeah. Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, I've lost my screen. Okay, hang on, folks. A little technical difficulty here. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're getting there, slow but sure. Someday we'll learn how to do this absolutely seamlessly. Okay, I'm gonna bring up the 928. Yep, that's it. Okay, and I'm trying to yeah, full screen. There we go. Okay, we'll get used to this somehow. All right, this is here, you get the 1145. Hang on again. Oh boy. Yeah, of course. I just done a shared. Yeah. Again. Okay, sorry, folks. 928, 923. I thought I had these in order. Yeah, that's that one's the 9. Yeah, oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we're going to get organized here. Okay. This year. I keep losing my my control panel. That's why I moved to the top of the screen instead of the bottom. Okay. So. Yeah, and we're sharing. Full screen. Okay. Come from yours? Okay. Apologize for that, folks. This is the 928 form. What it is consent for Veterans Affairs Canada to contact the personal information from a third party, usually the doctor, specialist, audiologist, people like that. Again, you see this Matan, Quebec address. Well, we put stickers over it for it's our address. Okay, and yeah, this is the form. It's pretty straightforward. When we send it out, it's going to have all the information on the top. Now, down below is 2 sections for 2 different physicians. If there's more, they can always just add one piece of paper and staple it to it. Now, for the RCMP, this is name of organization right here. That's where you just put in Royal Canadian Mounted Police. That's all they got to do. But they do have a choice, so that VAC can see their whole file or only specific information about the condition. Then they have to tell them what they can access and what they can't. Only hiccup with that is if they do that, then the whole file's got to be vetted. It's going to add a lot of time to the claim until we get the information we need. So everything is secure. Everything is confidential. Everyone has clearance. So I always encourage just say my complete file. It's so much easier. And then they signed the bottom and did it. And that's the application for it. Say other than that, now then just put in the doctor's information. Specialist, phone numbers, contacts, just somebody they can talk to about the client's condition. Okay. Oh, there we go. Share. There we go. Okay, so that's that 928 consent form. Now, this is usually the package we send out. The 923, the actual application. Again, the 928. But we also include a direct deposit form, which is pretty straightforward. So let's talk about 923, because that's the meat of the application, and this is where they usually need a bit of help doing. Okay. Three. There we go. Okay. Okay. This is the actual application for the disability that we're applying for. Of course, we send it out to them. That's one other thing I'm going to point out to, not point out, but requests. Sometimes we're finding certain people, service officers, not on purpose, not trying to dump on anybody, but occasionally it happens. They'll download these files these forms off of Veterans Affairs website, which you can download them all, and I kind of suggest you do, just so you can see them a little closer and read them over and get familiar with them. But sometimes we've had them come to us partly filled out, missing information, because they just download and try to fill it best they can. Just follow the process, get us the claim form, RCL claim form, we register them, we find the research, then we send the paperwork out. And it'll have a lot of information already in the proper information, such as the ID numbers and the file numbers, the names, address. Most of this will be all filled out for you. Preferably language. They always want to know if you're an employee of Veterans Affairs, because if it is, then it goes somewhere else to be processed. Then, of course, the next page would be, let's see, the headers will all be filled out, all done. they may want to know the marriage information. Then straightforward document, really. The only thing is if the spouse is military or a veteran, they'll want to know some information about that other veteran in the household. So, and dependent children. Now, these forms are pretty generic for different situations. Children of a veteran only make a difference if they come under the Pension Act, which is section 21(1). Now, that's usually as RCMP officers. So if they're, if they add the children to the list, they have their spouse to the list, their pension is going to go up because it's under the Pension Act, not the Veterans Wellbeing Act. So next page, they want to know about the service. Again, we have this information. This will be filled out, but we always encourage the veteran to double check it, make sure, because we get that information from Veterans Affairs. Okay. Now, they also want to know the veteran's been a member of the RCMP. Again, then you have to file that other 928 form again. Okay. Now, here's where the real meat comes in. Claim condition. Okay. We'll have the condition typed in there that we feel that they have diagnosis for we can go forward with. And then they have to answer these questions. Do you have medical diagnosis of a permanent condition? Well, if it's a disability, it must be permanent. If they know the diagnosis, put it in there. If they're not sure, and they can contact us, or when we get it back, we'll put it in for them. But of course, it has to be a chronic condition. So they haven't had it more than 6 months. It's not chronic, according to Veterans Affairs. So if it's more than 6 months ago, so yes, and this will stop it dead in the track if it's not filled out. They want to know if you've received payment from a third party, anyone else, such as workman's comp, third-party insurance for this specific condition. Because if it is, then you got to provide them information about that, and they will deduct from what they're going to give you the amount that you already got from the other organization. Okay. Now below here, this is a small square. So most times I just tell people to do it up on a separate piece of paper, staple to the back, and just put see attachment here. That way they can write the story they want, whether it's long or short. And now this box, first page here, how does this condition affect your quality of life? So basically, what can't you do now that you used to be able to do because of this injury? And that's what they want to know, how it affects them. It affects their family life, their social life, stuff like that. Now, next page, again, claim condition will be in there. This is where they want the veteran to tell them how this condition is related to or aggravated by the service. So now we have to know how the service caused the problem. There's an infantryman. He's in 25 years. All of a sudden, 10 years later, he's got arthritis in his knees. Well, we know why. He's being in infantry. But other people have actual specific injuries that's happened to them in the service, caused by the service. So that's what we have to have. So again, in their own words, very basic. I tell people here, do not use military acronyms. Do not do these fancy words, especially military acronyms, because the person reading this may not have ever been in the military. They won't understand some of it. So it's plain and simple. Keep it simple. That's the main thing. Then there's just more information. Yada, privacy notice, stuff like that. And a bit of a checklist if, see, I'm here, I'm pointing. A bit of a checklist here for the veteran to go by. Now, proof of identification, of course, doesn't need that anymore. He's been identified. We have his proof because we have the application done. So if they want to, they can follow that. And of course, signature, date, and again, if it's a power of attorney, you have to check that so the Veterans Affairs know there is a power of attorney. Okay, we already have a copy of that because that came with the application. Okay. Okay, well, let's see the 441 form. I'll go to that next. So 441. And sure. really high tech here. Going up for you. That's not, that shouldn't be there. Okay, that comes through. Yep. Yep. Okay, good. Let's make that a little bigger then. Okay. Full screen mode. Okay. This is also another form we send to somebody who's new to Veterans Affairs. This is a direct deposit request, pretty straightforward. Main information again will be filled out. They choose how they want to receive payment, if or what kind of payments to the account. They attach a void check, and if they don't have a void check, some people don't checking accounts anymore. They go little plastic cards. Get the bank to fill it. Tell them to get the bank to fill out the information, and then we'll have the direct deposit form ready for them. And of course, just sign the next page. Okay, now there is a third page, but again, just privacy information, advantages of deposits, stuff like that. And of course, the Matan address, which we will have a tag over top of, so they won't be able to, they'll see that address. They hopefully they won't send it there. Okay, so let's go back here. Okay. There we go. Excuse me a second. Steve, I usually don't talk this much by myself, even on the phone. Okay, so that's the forms that we send out for an initial disability act benefits. Again, I just want you to to understand them. Don't have to be an expert on them, but just be familiar, so that if you get a call from a local veteran, say, I got these forms, I don't know what to do with. You'd be accustomed to them. You'd be able to help out. Okay. 542. Now there is an application for disability and/or death benefits for survivors and dependent children. Okay, well, happened to me a few times last year. A veteran died of mesothelioma. Now, Veterans Affairs realizes that's caused by asbestos and asbestos only. In one case, he already had a partial decision, 50%. When he passed, we do these, and you got the rest. If they found another veteran I know, they found out after the fact it was mesothelioma, and we applied for it as a cause of death, and they received 100% disability. Okay, I'll quickly go through it. And deposit form. It's right underneath the my info bar. Okay, there we go. Yeah, perfect. Keep checking Steve's computer to make sure it's okay. And yes, we are 6 feet apart. Okay, this is like say the form, and most times again, we'll be sending this out to the veteran's widow, spouse, widower, and he'll have a lot of information done, but it'll be missing a lot of information, such as cause of death. They got to know exactly what the cause of death was. Place of death. Okay. Now, service information, we'll probably have that already filled up. Again, it's in their files. It would say someone who's changed their last name because of marriage, they want to know the maiden name or any other names they may have used on this service. Date of application, they can make it the day they sign and mail it. Decision number, we'll have that filled out because every claim to Veterans Affairs has what they call a decision number. It's 11, 12 digits long. Okay, so now here they want to know about the applicant, the person who's applying for this, straightforward information, address, phone numbers, that kind of stuff. And on the next page carries on information about the applicant. Now they want to know they got a title, what languages they want, who the representative is, and like Steve mentioned, only command service officers can be a representative for that to Veterans Affairs for a client. So I'll be our name to be in there. And of course, date of birth, and again, maiden name thing again. Okay. Now they want to know information about the spouse or common law partner. Were they married, living together? Yes. They want a marriage date. Live in common law, they want to know that stuff. You know, divorced. If they're separated for any reasons, whether the veteran may have been put in a nursing home, long-term care, they want to know about that because you're still married, but you know, you're forced separated is what they call that. Okay. Now they want to know if they were a veteran themselves. They want to know their military information. There we go. Now this is the information about any dependent children that are minors, which is up to 18 years of age, or 18 to 25 full-time university. They're still considered dependent. And there's another little check mark down here that's sneaky, but it comes up every now and then. Are there any other dependents? No, because you only got room here for a couple. They want to know. So if you see, if you click yes, then if you haven't clicked yes, then they have to have a complete listing of all the dependents. Okay. And here's the death ruling. Looks at this part. We'll pretty well have filled out. Usually I do it myself because it's easier that way for the survivor. They want to know the death ruling. They want to know if the death cause of death was already related to a disability they had. And then, so of course, they have those claims of service related. So if it's already a claim they've had, like I say, mesothelioma, they may say deaths are related to whatever decision number. So we'll have that pretty well filled out. But they, they may want to add something. So yeah, no problem. Say, see attachment stapled to the back. See, it'd be very rare for you to see this form, but you never know. Now, some of you who have ever applied for Disability Veterans Affairs a while ago, you might remember this page. They want to know the quality of life, a disability for a disability benefit after death. Well, there's no quality, claim condition. I still all know. I say veterans deceased. Same down here. And then they sign it. And there's the third party information, and that 928 pops up as part of that package. Validation of ID. Now, when the survivor's applying a spouse, we need a spouse's identification. If the veteran is new to Veterans Affairs, his identification, he was not, he has his Veterans Affairs number. We also need the marriage certificate copies, death certificate copies, and again, like I say, the identification for the applicant. Those are all things we require to do an application for a survivor. That's cool. Oops. We'll get there. We'll get there. Here we go. Back to the slideshow. There. Okay. So that's, it's a big form. It's a little bit complicated, but it could help us a little. Now we also have can use this form to apply for an older veteran if his spouse is still alive and needs some assistance. We may be able to use this form to apply for hearing loss and tinnitus. By doing that, usually the older veterans, those who served in the 50s, 60s, seldom have an audiogram. Very seldom. Does happen, but very seldom. Now, if there's no audiogram in their file, because the benefit of the doubt must be given to the veteran, Veterans Affairs will usually give them minimum claims of 5 or 10% to the spouse. So this is a way of getting a little extra money for the spouse sometimes. Okay. Here's that pair. Here's that spot. So, okay. Any questions on any of that? I know it's a lot of information. Again, you can download these off the Veterans Affairs website. You can, look at them, see how they work. And again, don't print them off and give them to a veteran. Let them wait till we send them out. I lost my train of thought again. Senior moment. I'm allowed. Okay, so look at that, and yeah. That's basically the application process. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, well, don't see any hands. Okay, thank you. What do we have next? Oh, yeah, the VIP program. Okay, I know Steve went over this a bit earlier about the VIP. Again, must be a client, must have a disability or, you know, a wartime veteran, and who's also what's the word I'm thinking of? Finance, you know, their income. Yeah, you guys have a guaranteed income supplement to their instead of the war veterans allowance or possibly disability tax credit type thing. So this allows the veterans to hopefully stay home, and instead of being put in long-term care, they can get possible help around the house. They can get yard maintenance, which is the big one most people are looking for. The yard maintenance one is the grant they send out twice a year, March, September. They give you the money. You're supposed to pay someone to come do the work for you. So you get someone to do your gardening, your yard work. You know, you pay them out of that money. In the winter, you need your walkway walkway shoveled, and you know, driveway done, things like that. That's what the money's for, and that'll be sent out twice a year, no questions asked. So a little complicated this slide. Okay, who qualifies? Okay, I got a super power bar here in the way. Second here, folks. Yes, I can move that down like this. Okay, who's eligible? War veterans, World War II, Korea, and CF members who have been granted a disability benefit. So that's we just talked about that. Now, the VIB benefit required to meet needs arising from the service-related disability. So if you just have hearing loss and tinnitus, they're not going to give you a VIP for yard maintenance, because that hearing loss and tinnitus is not stopping you from doing your yard work. Back injuries, knees, arthritis, stuff like that, they'll look at. Now, war veterans who have health needs. Now, oh, I should go back one more here. I mentioned that hearing loss and tinnitus. If you have an elderly veteran who has that claim and their health is deteriorating, we can put an application for the VIP using the fact that there's, you know, the condition they call fate. I lost it again. Frail. Thank you, Steve. Frail. Yeah, we call, you know, they call it frail. So if their health is deteriorating to the point they can't do things, Veterans Affairs will look at them and get them assistance after they're assessed. So, okay, that's what veterans who have, they don't have any disability, but they're war veterans, or those have. Now those now also qualify those who have service disability in excess of 48%. Now we're talking about war veterans. We are talking about the Pension Act there. Low income for war veterans allowance. Eligible, they were eligible for it, but they're probably going to be getting the guaranteed income supplements. Or they were an overseas veteran who's waiting for a contract bed. You know, he's waiting to be in long-term care, but it's not available. They'll give him help around the house until their bed is available. And of course, LA veterans who have exceptional health needs, low income, and meet the criteria of an overseas service veteran. You've seen some of that in the news the last few years with that. Okay, just basically the qualification ways, effects of the program. Okay, so what is available? Yeah, the forms, they're all over the place. You know, their area office, VAC, there's websites, Government Service Canada sites, National Client Centers, us. Okay, and they can do their, you know, they can submit their through my VAC account if they want, or they can drop it off to us and we'll make sure it goes to the right place. Okay. Now, program is need-based. What I mean by that, you're going to be assessed. If they're going to send someone out, whether a nurse, occupational therapist, whatever, and they are going to determine, you know, how much support and what is required to help you stay home. Okay, so they're going to look at the home. They're going to, you know, understanding the client's circumstances. Then they'll arrange the benefits, and again, like all VIP decisions do come with an appeal right. So if you know they say no, you have a chance to appeal. But again, you're going to need some evidence, something to prove that there's, you know, they made a mistake. Now, 9 elements. You know, like I said, groundkeeping, maintenance, housekeeping. Those are, you know, paid by semi-annual grants. The rest are come under being assessed. Personal care. Can you, veterans who can't, you know, shower, bathe, dress themselves easily, things like that. their health is so poor that they can't get to the store, can't get good nutrition. That can be arranged to have food brought in. Again, health and sports services, have a nurse come in once a day or a couple times a week, home care if they need it, that kind of thing. But these all have to be, of course, pre-approved, and VAC usually pays them out directly to them. Employee health care, that's transportation services if you need it. Home adaptations, there is some monies available for maybe widen the door, put a couple handles in the bathroom, possibly a ramp if needed. Okay, so all that's that comes in there, and there's again all need based. Now there's a form. Of course, there's a form. I wouldn't go without a form, would I? Okay. Up. Sure. The forms go. There we go. Sure. So let me folks this. Get the right form here. Yeah. Yep. Okay. And screen. We'll check, make sure. Yep. Yes. This thing's slowing down. Hopefully they're back for you folks at home. Okay. Again, they're going to start off. They're going to want to know your profile. If we send the form out to you to the client, I'll try and get the information in here that we have. Again, so the top of taking care of personal information. I'll try to get the information in there if we can have it. If not, then they'll be blank and they'll have to include that themselves. Yeah, they don't, that maiden name thing, watch out for that, because if we don't include it, they'll be calling us or dropping us an email. And again, representatives, Steve and myself for here. Okay, and then it gets on, of course, go on to the dependent children again. Well, we've been through that. And you sign it. That's just a profile. That's just so they know who you are and what's going on with you. Okay, oops. I noticed off there. And they always do that blank page. Okay, this is the actual application. Again, from us, we'll try to have it filled up best we can. If not, it'll be empty and you'll need the help. You may need the help. I shouldn't say you have to, maybe if they call you. Okay, name, date of birth, that kind of stuff. Where do you live? Well, depending on where you live, depends on what kind of health care you can get. If you're at a home, yeah, you're gonna need yard maintenance. You're in an apartment, well, you're not gonna get it. That kind of thing. Okay. Are you currently living alone? They want to know that if they are alone, that's maybe get some more stuff in to help them out. But if they have someone living with them, they want to know the name and the relationship. So, wife, husband, whatever, and the relationship, their name. But they want to know the health of the person that's living with you. If they have health issues, you definitely say yes. Okay, you definitely say yes. If they don't, well, you say no. But usually they say these are getting up to elderly people, so odds are to be some kind of health issues. Then information on completing the task within your home. Well, that's just straightforward answers questions. Do you need help doing this, this, and this? Okay. And any additional information they may want to send. Yeah. A spouse, a surviving spouse. I think jump that page a few minutes here. Hang on a second, folks. Okay. There are three groups of applications that can go in for VIP. One is a veteran. Nobody discussed that. Those who are eligible for disability benefit from VAC, or those who are receiving the War Veterans Allowance or GIS, prisoner of war, and veterans who are eligible for bed but waiting. Group two is primary caregiver or survivor whose veteran was in receipt of housekeeping and or ground benefits. It can be transferred to the surviving spouse. Okay, whether they're admitted to a home care or they pass away. There is a possibility of a survivor and veteran who was not in receipt of VIP household grounds to pass on at the time of death. They're mostly war veterans, income quality war veteran. So that one's a little harder, but you read through that if you're asked, and you can help try and explain it to them. It's just those primary caregivers or the spouse, like I say, who already have that, it's easily transferred to the spouse. And when that happens, there are, like I say, more information here. This is going to be filled out by the survivor now here's where they want to know the information about the veteran who's passed or is in long-term care. And they want to know about the caregiver, survivor, are you, your health needs, facility living, are you deceased? Are they deceased? They want to know about the veteran. They want to know if the person living with them was of age, and helping them out maintain or being maintained by the veteran. So if they're taking care of that veteran full time, they're maintaining. But a dependent or somebody who is being maintained by the veteran can qualify. Again, like I said, minor children up to 18, 25 full-time university. But there are conditions. People have health issues, certain conditions that they never left the home. They can't leave the home. And the parents want them to stay, keep home instead of go to a group home or something. They are being maintained, even though they may be 50 years old. So that's possible. That means there. And where you reside in the principal residence of the veteran. Okay. But here's another big one. They want to know if you receive payment for providing care for the veteran. If they were lucky enough to get the caregiver benefit, they would have to explain that there. And they want to know if the veteran in Section D is receiving the VIP already. So, and you get back to signing. Say there's your criteria of each group, and get to the back. Here's a checklist. If they're veteran or civilian qualifies in Section 1, then you have to complete. This gives you the sections you have to complete. Primary caregiver survivor who's in receipt, then you have that section. If they weren't in receipt, then you have to fill it the whole form. Okay. And of course, proof of guaranteed income supplement or disability tax credit. I have to have proof of that there too, because it's going to work on income. Okay. So that's basically the VIP. Now, what I'm going to ask also is when you're doing a first application for somebody, say they're putting in for hearing loss, say they're putting in for arthritis, and that, don't have them fill out one of these forms and send it along with it. Let's get them in the system, and then I can get the form out to them so we can work it properly. If you're just sending the form in and not a client, it's just going to sit in a pile. Nothing's going to be done about it. So we got to get them in first. So please don't please get the application done, but don't do these forms, okay? And with them. Now, if he's already a client, Veterans Affairs, he just wants help doing the form he's received, feel free. Great. Okay. Yeah, we throw that. So let's try this again. I love computers. This is making me nervous today. Oh, there it is. Stop share. Escape. I think that's the last form. No, share. There we go. Okay, so that's that form. Right? It's long, it's complicated. This is kind of dry, but this is what we have to do to get these people benefits that they deserve. All right, so that's the form. Oh, here's that point again. Hi, I'll open the door. And anybody any questions about these? Again, also, before I say that, you can, if you want to understand how exactly disabilities are rated with the Veterans Affairs, you can go to their website. They have a search bar, like most websites. You type in table of disabilities. Now, this is the book they go by. It lists all the disabilities, what the criteria are for each percentage, and how they make their determinations. It's free, it's available, download PDF. I'm gonna remind you, it's like 450 pages, but you can have it, and it'll give you an understanding if you want. Give you an understanding how they do this. When you look at a condition, like say a bad back, that's usually assessed by range of motion. It's most joints, range of motion. Then they're going to look at the chart, and they're going to see different criteria. And then look at the other side of the chart. So I'm talking with my hands again. No one see me. On the right side is criteria, different columns, and on the left side is the joining column, has a number in it. 3, 8, 10, 25, 50. That's the percentage of the disability that particular criteria is for. And then, of course, they have the quality of life, which you could add up to 5 more percent. And they'll look at that through your statement for quality of life. That's why that statement is kind of important. Okay, and that's, don't see any hands. Okay, slide down to the next slide here, and I think, where'd it go? I'm done. So we're going to turn this over to our executive director, Mr. Vino, and yeah, we'll control the slides from here. And the floor is yours, Val. Or do we have to do something here?
I think I should be visible at this point and audible.
Okay, I'm going to be.
Can you or Steve confirm that you can hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can't see.
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Right. Okay. Good thing I didn't start to sing happy birthday or something.
What? How did you know it was my birthday?
And I was like, Robert's going to do a little switch here with Steve and I with the computer. So I'm going to stop and he's going to take over here. Stop
Okay.
there. Okay, now Steve, you take it over. Let's share it out.
So good morning, everyone. It is so very encouraging to see so many people perhaps stepping outside of their comfort zone and joining us via Zoom this morning. It's equally encouraging to see not just branch service officers participating, but I recognize branch executives and district executives and people involved in the POPI committee and just generally interested in joining the seminar this morning. So Steve and Ken both mentioned that we will be posting the recording of this presentation to the command website. It will be password protected, but we will provide that. And of course, because it is a recording, you will be able to fast forward or back up and review or advance the presentation to actually find specific segments within the presentation that you may be looking for. And of course, there's the opportunity to share it now with others. So certainly the segment that I have within this seminar today is much less time. And I want you to know that if we don't have time or we don't get to all of your questions today for any segment within the seminar, please do submit the questions to any of us by email. And we will respond with those answers, and then we will include the questions in a section when we post the presentation to the website. Because I don't know about you, but very often I learn a lot from the answers provided to questions posed by other people. So it's a very good source of information. So maybe we will move to what I have as slide 1. Oh, I see it's up on the screen there. Thank you very much. The Nova Scotia Nunavut Command Benevolent Fund is a registered charitable fund with Revenue Canada. The actual fund is an umbrella fund under which we have veteran and dependent financial assistance, Veterans Outreach, and Pause for Thought. Nova Scotia Nunavut Command Benevolent Fund financial assistance and Veterans Outreach is supported primarily through donations from Branch POPI Trust Funds and Nova Scotia Nunavut Command General Funds, while Pause for Thought receives donations from all over the world, other veteran organizations, and is supported by Nova Scotia Nunavut Command branches through their POPI Trust Funds at that level. The Nova Scotia Nunavut Command Poppy Fund is a trust fund through which we first and foremost support the Service Bureau for Veteran Services. Purchase and sale of supplies, minor financial donations to cadet, provincial, and territorial events, and the annual youth poster and literacy program are also supported through the Command Poppy Fund. Poppy Fund revenues are generated through the sale of supplies to the annual branch Poppy Trust Fund, or to the annual branch Poppy campaigns, and through a branch Poppy Trust Fund assessment. So these two revenue streams still do not fully generate the funding required to fully support the Service Bureau. For instance, at the end of the fiscal year 2020, the Command Poppy Fund still owed the Command General Fund over $400,000. Slide 2, please, or the next slide, I should say. Thank you. Under the Command Benevolent Fund, financial assistance is extended to veterans and dependents for emergency assistance, which is defined as shelter, food, fuel, clothing, prescription medicine, and necessary transportation. Assistance cannot be continued over an extended period, but may be offered more than once to an individual. The assistance provided must contribute to a solution or to a problem that actually gave rise to the need. So the Benevolent Fund application must be thoroughly completed and submitted to the Command Executive Director, who is a member of the Command Benevolent Committee. The branch service officer or the command service officer may be requested to assist the applicant in completing the form. Once the completed application is received, the executive director contacts the applicant, gathers background, clarifies and confirms information provided, including any other sources of funding which have been accessed. At this time, the applicants are asked for permission to share the information with any other potential sources of support that Nova Scotia Nunavut Command might access on behalf of the applicant. Next slide, please. This includes the appropriate Nova Scotia Nunavut Command branch. There are times that the applicant does not wish to have their identity disclosed due to concerns surrounding confidentiality. The executive director prepares options and presents those options to the Benevolent Committee chairman, and jointly a plan of action is decided. So you see the Benevolent Fund application on the screen. It will be in the presentation. It's fairly well laid out and simple to understand. It's basic identifying information and qualifying information that the individual making application is a veteran or a dependent of a veteran, and basically requires a listing of all of the debt, any investments and assets and the value of those, and then a listing of income, all sources of income, and monthly expenses. So the sources of income would include other sources of income that are coming into the household. So if it's a veteran that's applying who has a spouse who is also earning money or salary or pensions from any other source, or they have an adult child living with them who contributes to the monthly income to the household, that would be included on that form as well. So all sources for support of the application from sources outside of Nova Scotia Nunavut Command are first exhausted. So depending on the health of the applicable branch Poppy Fund, the branch service officer may be contacted by the executive director with a request to fully support the application or as a joint effort between the branch and command and/or any other resources that may be accessible. It must be stressed that when provided by the executive director, having received permission of the applicant, under no circumstances is the name and address of the applicant to be divulged, except to none other than the command or branch service officer, who in turn is fully responsible to maintain that confidence. If the role of the branch Poppy Trust Fund Committee is unclear in the matter of dealing with financial assistance to those who qualify via request from the branch service officer, please contact me directly as soon as possible so that process can be clarified within your branch. Requests for benevolent assistance through command are primarily to address emergencies. When collaborating with branches, often the executive director will request a decision from the branch as soon as possible. Command would then expend the full amount and be reimbursed in the agreed upon amount as soon as convenient for the branch. It is recommended that, lost my place. It's recommended that the benevolent fund application also be used by the branches in considering direct requests for assistance through branch Poppy Trust funds. That approval process is outlined in the slide presentation. Next slide, please. Again, the need for the branch service officers to keep the names and addresses of applicants of branch Poppy Trust Fund assistance confidential is absolutely paramount. Of course, as we all know, any assistance provided through either of these funds would be dispersed on behalf of the veteran or dependent directly to a vendor, or in the case of assistance for food, to the veteran and dependent by way of a grocery gift certificate. So now you can just move through slides, the rest of the slides, just as we move on in the presentation. Thank you. So included too, under the umbrella of the Benevolent Fund, is the Nova Scotia Nunavut Command Veteran Outreach Programs. The program's mission is to provide enrichment to veterans' lives and to assist in the transition to civilian life through connection to recovery-oriented care, programming, social services, and peer support. By fostering and forming mutually supportive partnerships with established community resources, healthcare professionals, all levels of government, and like-minded individuals, the Veterans Outreach Program offers a hand up. Funded partially through donations from Nova Scotia Nunavut Command Legion Branch Poppy Trust Funds, support has been extended through programs such as the Veterans Transition Network, Porchlight, trauma relapse prevention programs, operational stress injury social support peer and family programs, Rally Point Retreat, Heroes Mending on the Fly, Mental Health First Aid, the Veteran Farm Project, Operation Vet Build, and Buddy Check coffee groups, with full connection to the Royal Canadian Legion's National Operational Stress Injury Special Section. Many Nova Scotia Nunavut Command branches operate and or support veterans transition programs through branch Poppy Trust funds with prior approval by Nova Scotia Nunavut Command. Pause for Thought operates under Nova Scotia Nunavut Command's Benevolent Fund, and Pause for Thought pairs veterans with PTSD service dogs. Nova Scotia Nunavut Command advocates for the establishment of national standards for PTSD service dogs and the acceptance of this support as treatment through Veterans Affairs Canada. Nova Scotia Nunavut Command manages the financial affairs of Pause for Thought, and support of PTSD service dogs is, with prior command approval, a permissible use of Poppy Trust funds. So within Nova Scotia Nunavut Command, the Poppy Committee Chairman, in conjunction with the Command Executive Director, reviews and approves or denies all requests from branches for special use of Poppy Trust funds based on the criteria set out in the Royal Canadian Legion Poppy Manual. It is highly recommended that before any branch or Poppy and Remembrance Committee considers the potential of allocating Poppy Trust funds, that they consult the Poppy Manual in advance. And if ever there's any question with regard to the approved use or potential for approval for use of Poppy Trust funds, please don't hesitate to contact my office. My telephone number is available on the website and under the staff contact list. The same goes for anything that I've mentioned in the presentation today on benevolency, on assistance to veterans through branch Poppy Trust funds, or the potential to begin to operate some veterans outreach programs within your branch. I'm happy to see folks here from the Inverness branch today. They were, and from our Chester branch. Both branches have Operation Vet Build either about to launch or fully launched. And we have Operation Vet Build running quite successfully in the Cape Breton area as well. Certainly we're willing to provide any assistance from the experiences of those branches, or actually even from a national perspective, to any branch that may wish to set up such a program in their own branch. So that is everything that I actually have to say on this. I guess at this point, it would be time for questions. Did we move through these slides?
Yeah, yes, we did, Val.
Okay, terrific. Because I'm just not seeing it on my screen, so.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
We're at
That's
your last
okay.
slide.
That's okay. So, yeah, so this would be the spot for questions. Steve, can you or Ken actually see any hands up? I see Vince Penny has a question. I'm actually not seeing the whole screen, so Vince, if you would like to enable your video and your audio, I'm standing by.
Are you able to do Vince? Do you see him there?
There he is.
Good morning, Jim.
Oh, hi, Valerie.
Hi.
Hi. This is very helpful. I wonder if I could ask the indulgence of folks around the table here. We recently had a case where one of our veterans had a damaged screen door, and we've been helping with a number of things, ramps inside the house, and so he can get out in his wheelchair and various things. And so when the subject of the screen door came up, we just finished helping him with other things, some of which he paid for or helped to pay for. And Veterans Affairs was reimbursing him for a number of things too.
Okay.
They've been very, very good at taking care of him. So the reason I mention this by way of background is we came to think about using the Poppy Fund to help with the replacement of this screen door. So we talked about it at an executive meeting, and I, of course, looked at the manual, And I filled in the form, and the recommendation that I made to our executive was that the total price of the door was about $600 and some plus tax. And so I recommended that we approve $300 from the Poppy Fund, and that we would then ask the veteran to cover the rest. So by the time we arranged for a couple of us to install the door and put it all in place, it's now working. In fact, just as of yesterday, we had a few things that developed, and so I'm getting to my question in a moment. We were all set to have an approval at a general meeting in accordance with the way I was reading the Poppy Fund manual. And on the way to that, we happened to be having our investiture of new officers for the new year. And so our zone commander was present, and the subject of, at the general meeting, and the subject of this plan to spend $300 from the Poppy Fund with approval from command came up. And he gathered the smaller group of us together after the meeting, the president, myself, the Poppy Fund chair was not there, but available by phone, and the treasurer was there. So he said to us that for amounts under $500 from our own Poppy Trust Fund, that it was not necessary to go to command. And he indicated to us that the process was to use the benevolent fund, but to not ask for all of the veterans' family financial information, just to use that form to record the transaction. And so we of course thanked him very much for his guidance, and there was some subsequent email correspondence confirming that this was the case, and it had been blessed by command as a process. And so we subsequently then did not go to command. We completed that form. The four of us involved, the president, I as the service officer, treasurer, and the chair of the Poppy Fund, all signed the form. And we allocated $300 from our local Poppy Fund to help pay for the door. And just in the event that it's a help to anyone else who might be on the call here, what we did as well, there was of course a payment directly to the supplier of the door. So our branch covered the full cost of the door. Chester Building Supplies here, awfully helpful. They always provide the local legions and churches with materials at their cost. And in the case of the door, they took off 10% from the cost of the door, so we wound up paying even less. But the method of payment was as follows, and here's where anyone who might be holding their pen might find this useful. $300 came from our own Poppy funds. In our minds, with the transaction covered by that abbreviated completion of the benevolent fund form, because our branch was paying for the door, our treasurer will be including a request for a refund of the HST from CRA, on the tax side. And then we also have an arrangement locally where the municipality, the District of Chester, has a fund where they will gather donations for community organizations, not-for-profit organizations such as ourselves, and then at the end of the year issue a tax receipt. So what we did was we asked our veteran to write a check for his portion of the door and make it a donation to our account under the umbrella of the municipality. So in addition to helping to put the door in place, he also get a tax receipt for that amount. So we don't think that we stretched anything too much, all with the best of intentions, of course. But with all of that background, and I appreciate your patience to everyone who's listening, my question is about the $500 threshold. Are we in fact at the local branch level able to approve ourselves expenditures from our own poppy funds, assuming that we feel they're available, to help veterans in need of something that doesn't go over that $500 threshold, or at least the portion we want to cover does not exceed the $500?
Okay, so I guess to begin, I just want to say I'm very thankful that Branch 88, is out there providing the assistance, which is our mission. But there are just so many things wrong with the entire process that you just related. Under no circumstances does a branch approve a special use application. That's why at the bottom of the special use application, it says command approval. However, assistance to a veteran for any reason that is laid out in the Poppy manual does not require a special use application to command. The Poppy manual is very clear on the do's and don'ts of Poppy trust funds, and it's also very, very clearly laid out when a special use application needs to be submitted, and what generally Poppy trust funds can be used for, to provide assistance to those who fall within the definition of a veteran or a dependent. And never would a request to assist a veteran be brought to a general membership meeting. So this is what should have happened with this. The service officer identifies that a veteran is in need of assistance, has consulted the Poppy manual, has thoroughly completed the form that we use for benevolency, therefore outlining all of the income and all of the expenses so that we have a true indication of the need and therefore the qualifier for the assistance that's requested. The branch service officer meets with the veteran and compiles the information in a file, brings the file to the Poppy and Remembrance Committee of the branch without disclosing the name or the address of the veteran, and says, I have a veteran in need of assistance that qualifies under the terms for the use of Poppy trust funds. So therefore, I recommend to the committee that $500 be dispersed or be approved by the Poppy committee in order to offer this named assistance to this veteran. The Poppy and Remembrance Committee then approves or disapproves of it, and it moves on then, if it's approved, to either the Poppy committee treasurer. Some branches, Poppy committees have their own treasurers, or it moves to the branch treasurer. The treasurer is not to have the name of the veteran either. Again, confidentiality absolutely paramount. And the disbursement is then made out directly to the vendor. I have no idea where the limit of $500 came into play. if the cost is $20 and the POPI manual says it's for an item that requires prior approval of Nova Scotia Nunavut Command, then it requires prior approval of Nova Scotia Nunavut Command. For some donations, as outlined in the POPI manual, once again, for instance, let's say a branch wanted to make a donation to the cadet squadron in their area. For that purpose, the POPI manual will say that there's a percentage that is allowable and a special use application is required. So the special use application is completed and it is brought to the general membership for the general membership to approve. And right on the form, it says moved and seconded and asks for the date of the meeting. Those are the only types of POPI Trust Fund expenditures that go anywhere outside of the POPI and Remembrance Committee. So I hope that has answered some of your questions, and I thank you for the opportunity to be able to explain the process. But I caution and suggest to everyone that you contact my office if you're not entirely sure of a process, or if you just want to hash things over and say, I have this scenario. We often do that. We discuss it back and forth, so hopefully that's helpful information, comrade.
Well, it is very much. I really appreciate this. We had been doing our best to comply with what I thought we saw in the POPI manual, and then we had this very specific guidance about not having to follow that route, and so we proceeded in the other direction, and I'm very pleased to report. Of course, the objective is to support our veterans, and I'm very pleased to report that we now have a 94-year-old veteran who, with the benefit of this screen door and other ramps that we've put in, he gets around in motorized wheelchair, and he can now get out on his deck and back in, and he's always in good spirits anyway, but he's just over the top. So we accomplished the objective, and another time we'll certainly be much clearer on the steps to take. So thanks so much, Valerie. I appreciate that.
So, oh, I see. Vince Penny, your hand is raised. Would you like to enable your video and audio, please?
Yes, can you hear me there?
Hi, yes. Hi, Vince.
How are you today?
Good to see you.
I have firstly, thank you very much for your presentation. I'd like to get a copy of the POPI Trust Fund Manual. Do you have those at command?
So all of the manuals, including the branch service officer manual that Steve mentioned earlier, are all available on the Dominion Command website.
Okay.
And every branch has a passcode for enabling them access to branch resources, and that's where you'll find those manuals. If your branch has forgotten what that is, or you can't get it, please call our office. We can provide it to you. And there's also a link to the POPI manual under branch resources on our website.
All right.
But it's always best to go direct to the originating website, which is National Command's website.
And will they send you a hard copy so that you can have right in your hand to read? No? It's all.
There are no longer hard copies of any manuals within the Royal Canadian Legion. They're all digital, but you can download it and print it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question. Now, the benevolent fund.
Yeah.
That's where you would send an application for a veteran that's looking for something that Veterans Affairs turned them down from?
Well, that could be the case, but isn't necessarily always the case. It may have nothing to do with Veterans Affairs. You know, it would also be something that would be beyond the branch Poppy Trust Fund to assist with. Or that the branch would like to suggest a collaboration between command and the branch.
All right,
So-
just for a quick question, I have
Sure.
a veteran that receives a pension for hearing loss,
Yeah.
and he's receiving a pension for that, and he gets also the VIP
Yeah.
for house cleaning and so on. But now he's been diagnosed with sleep apnea
Right.
and needs one of those machines to help him sleep at night. He has went to Veterans Affairs, and they've turned him down because it was outside the scope of his pension.
Yeah.
So he's come to the branch, or I must say that the Veterans Affairs then mentioned that maybe he could go to his local branch and go to the Poppy Trust Fund to help purchase this piece of machinery. Now, the machinery, I'll just say roughly, I'll say $2,500. This is a fair chunk of change.
Yeah.
And he's asked if the Poppy Trust Fund could help him in that respect.
So comrade, if you access the Poppy manual, it will say there that Poppy Trust Funds can be utilized for medical expenses or appliances. That would fall under that.
Okay, that's the kind of information I'd like to try to have. And then so my next question is, if for example, we were going to entertain that request and buy the machine, we have to get approval from Nova Scotia Command first, because it's over $500.
Yeah, and I don't know where this $500 is coming. It has no play anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know where the $500 is coming from. The only place that I know that this limit of $500 falls is in the branch treasurer's monthly financial report. In that they're required to list expenses from the Poppy Fund for anything over $500.
Yes.
So that has nothing to do with making application or providing assistance. So what would happen is, of course, you know, you would complete the benevolent, you would use the benevolent application because it's a good one. We can change the name of it to say Poppy/benevolent. And you would complete that application. You would go to the Poppy and Remembrance Committee. You would say, I have a veteran in need. They show that, you know, they don't have the means to look after this themselves. I'm recommending approval. They approve it for you. You go to the branch treasurer, you go to the Poppy committee treasurer and say, I need a check for $2,000 made out to, I don't know, whatever company it is.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. And they just write out the check. You take that file, you make your notes in the file that it was dispersed and looked after, and you file it and you lock that filing cabinet or you lock it behind a door that no one has access to it. So if what you're missing is your Poppy manual, and it's very clear in there. It says the following expenses are acceptable use of Poppy Trust Funds.
Yes.
The following, these are the do's of Poppy Trust Funds. These are the don'ts of Poppy Trust Funds.
Okay, so my next question is, so I'll follow the Poppy Trust Fund as it says, and the manual.
Yeah.
And if we fill out a benevolent request form, you need to have all the financial record of how much the person that's coming into his household
Yes.
for finances.
Yeah.
So is there scales that they follow in the benevolent fund? Like they say,
So if you have all of the sources of income are on one side of that form,
Yes.
and all of the expenses are on the other side of that form, and then at the bottom it says surplus or deficit per month.
yes.
But on the first page, it also has a list for all of the assets and any investments. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you look at the application and you see that this veteran has a surplus every month of $1,500, $2,000, $500, but they have no investments, you can say, well, we can see with a surplus of only about $400 or $500 a month, how this would be a burden
Yes,
for this veteran or dependent to be able to pay for that. But
okay,
if you see that they have a surplus of $500 a month, and on the other side in entertainment, they have $1,000 a month allotted for entertainment, you're going to go, well, if they can afford $1,000 a month for entertainment, chances are they could knock it back a little bit for a few months. For those payments, they could pay for a CPAP machine.
okay. So that's,
Or
it-
they're breaking even every month, but they've got $50,000 of investments, and they're 95 years old. So I know that sounds rather callous and clinical, but you have to approach these applications in a very objective way.
yes,
And ultimately, it's up to the Poppy and Remembrance Committee what decision they make
right
when
on.
it comes to,
And the
Right.
biggest thing is to make sure you have a good paper trail to cover all expenses.
Absolutely, but that is something that you would keep locked up and confidential, and you would the only person then that would have access to that would be, if one of the command service officers required the information,
Yes,
or if you sought collaboration with command, then I may need that application.
yes,
So, when it comes to confidentiality, just so that I can mention here. So the confidentiality agreement that I have with command in this position is that, excuse me, my throat today, is very extensive, and provides wide coverage. I also have a low-level security clearance with DAC. Now, I can't access the client service delivery network or anything like that, but certainly to share information with me on a needs basis only. Sometimes it's not even necessary. Most times it isn't. But also then, that information would have to be accessible to, whoever is going to take on the position after you choose to leave. So, you have to have good solid records, but they need to be guarded very carefully.
okay, thank you very
Hopefully
much.
that's helpful, comrade. But anytime you have any questions, please don't hesitate. There's always something that doesn't fit into the defined box. So we're there to help you talk it through.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. So I don't see any more hands. Am I seeing the whole screen, Steve and Ken?
Yeah, I checked. I've gone to both
Easy.
screens, and I got a thumbs up. That's not a question.
Oh.
You got. Sorry, you
I
got.
think Judy is happy that the questions are over.
No,
So with no further questions,
Excuse me, I did have a question, but I didn't know how to do the button.
we thought you were just happy.
No, I only had a clap or a thumbs up. I didn't have anything.
Oh, weird.
Okay, I'll start my
Okay.
video. Okay.
Hi, Judy.
Hello,
Hi, good to see you.
thank you. I have a simple question, I think. I don't know if I missed something because I'm taking notes and I didn't have time to check the Poppy manual, but I just want to make sure. So for every request we have from a veteran for emergency help of any kind, we need to complete that benevolent application?
So Judy, that would be recommended, but we all know that sometimes it's such urgent situations. We'll get calls at command from a veteran who says, listen, we haven't had groceries for a week and the peanut butter jar is now empty. And, I have no juice and I have 4 kids. Well, I'm not going to say, okay, we're going to send you this benevolent application. You got to fill all of this out and jump through all these hoops. So, to a certain extent, we have to, of course, be rational about it and react. So in those cases, we'd say, yeah, absolutely. Let's provide some emergency food assistance for you. And we would provide the grocery gift certificates.
I
And
like
then we
that
would
idea.
say, yeah, and then we would say, okay, if you're interested, maybe you'd like to work with us. Maybe the person's not in receipt of any entitlements or has no idea if they qualify. Or maybe it's just that the car broke down last week and they had to spend everything that they had to look after the car to go back and forth to work, and the groceries suffered. But they'll be all right by the time the next paycheck comes along. So we always leave the door open to providing, further assistance, mainly through representation through the Service Bureau.
And like,
Yeah.
I guess I
Sorry.
didn't, and I'm not used to Zoom, so I didn't mean to interrupt,
No,
but
that's okay. I'm just thinking.
the same thing, for
as a
example,
thought.
someone phoned and they needed help with their electric bill, or they
Yeah.
needed oil.
Yeah.
We don't give them money to pay that bill. We make the payment directly
Yeah.
to Nova Scotia Power or
Yeah.
to this, the oil company that they're
Right.
with.
Yeah.
And now I said I only had one question. I have one more, I guess.
Okay.
Do we help veterans that may not be able to get assistance from DVA for travel expenses to perhaps go to Halifax for treatment or that sort of thing?
So when you check your Poppy manual, you'll see that it says transportation for medical appointments is an acceptable use of Poppy trust funds. And for those categories, you don't need to submit a special use application.
Okay, but then you're going to have to give that vet actual cash, right? Or would you give the
Well,
gas
normally
card?
what we would do is give a gas card.
Okay,
And it's not, once you check your Poppy manual, you'll find too, it's not ongoing. We can't say, okay, we will give you $100 a month for the next 6 months, or the next 12 months, so you can make these medical appointments. So it can't be ongoing. It can be more than once,
yes.
but it can't be ongoing to the point where the veteran would say, okay, well, I've got $100 a month in gas cards coming from the Legion.
Yeah, so you would give maybe a gas card, a Tim's card, so that you're not actually giving a veteran cash that may not be going for the actual expense, or he decides not to get the treatment or that sort of thing. And I think that's a much better way to handle finances.
Well, and that is outlined in the Poppy manual as well.
I will
Yeah.
read it again. I'm not the service officer, but I'm trying
Yep,
to
that's okay.
get help.
No, that's great. I think it's wonderful. We all should know as much as possible in support of, let's face it, what is the main mission of our organization,
Well,
and
exactly.
that's to serve veterans and their dependents. So
There's so much misinformation out there. That's what I find.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we have thought for some time that this type of information should be included in the training. And, with this information online, people can refer to it at any time. And branch service officers can refer to segments of it to bring it to the attention of their Poppy Remembrance Committee chair people or their branch executives. So that, issues such as confidentiality are well understood, and, processes are well understood. But again, anytime anything comes up that there's any question about, or you just want to confirm it, please don't hesitate to contact my office. I'm there to provide assistance in any way possible.
Well, thank you so much. And I think I'm going to do a short presentation at our next meeting.
That sounds good, Judy.
Because
That's good.
I think we have to re-educate some people.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a while. Thank you very much. It's been a great morning.
Thank you. So I think we have a question in the chat here. How does the service officer verify the financial information provided by the client? So part of what's required on those forms is to provide tax returns from the previous year, or in some cases, bank statements. So, and that, I hope that answers that question. You're welcome, Jim. Okay, so, yeah.
Can I add a
Again,
question for Ken?
oh, sure, sorry.
Keith Ongo. I'm blocked out there, but I'd like to have a question for
Okay.
Ken if that's possible.
Okay, Ken, did you hear that? Keith has a question for you.
Go ahead.
Hi, Ken.
Hey.
Full disclosure, I'm not a service officer yet. Hopefully, in the future might hold that. But I am dealing with a relative of mine, and I'm in the process of referring him to a service officer. But here's his issue: is he got discharged from the service, and he had a service-related injury, or he feels he has a service-related injury. And he got the forms from VAC and took them to his doctor, but unfortunately his doctor passed away. So in saying that, here in Cape Breton, it's very difficult to get another doctor. So you can go to a clinic, you can go to emergency, but they're not going to fill out forms for you. So in saying that, and I don't know if he misunderstood, and I don't know if I understood him properly, but his issue was that the Veterans Affairs, and if this is correct or not, I don't know, told him that the doctors they have will look at any existing condition, but will not do any new applications. So this will be a new application for him. So he doesn't have his own doctor. How can that individual get help, find a doctor to help him with his particular issue?
That's the hardest thing going on right now. We do have one doctor has approached us in Dartmouth that he's a sports doctor. He'll help out with like musculoskeletal injuries. But other than that, he's the only one that's come forward to help us out. But it's in Dartmouth, and of course, you're out in Cape Breton.
Okay.
And VAC will not entertain a claim without a medical questionnaire if they've been out of the service more than 1 year.
Yes. Okay, so if I could get him to Dartmouth, could I still make the application through you guys? And then how would I go about setting up that appointment for that doctor to have a look at it?
Once we get him to the RTO application form, get him registered through us, and then I'll talk to him directly and tell him about the doctor, and he just calls, makes an appointment with him, explains he's from the Legion, and of course it's going to be like, a few weeks, but he's really good.
Okay. One other question there. You talked about the disability benefits for spouses after a veteran has passed through this world, unfortunately. Would they still be eligible for benefits if the individual died of natural causes? So, an example, a veteran would say develop type 2 diabetes years later. I mean, that's not directly related to his condition, but he passed away. Would that spouse or whatever it may be, partner, apply for those death benefits as well? Would there be anything there for them?
Yeah, in that situation, if the veteran that passed had the VIP, that can be transferred. Just a matter of filling out some paperwork. As for a disability claim, like I said, we have been very lucky in pushing through the hearing loss type claim because, like I said before, there's no audiograms back in the 50s and 60s. They're very, very rare. And if that's the case, then Veterans Affairs has been very generous and has helped out that way. That's the only way I can see it.
Mm-hmm. So if they died of natural causes, the spouse couldn't apply for benefits?
Well, no, there's no death benefit for that, no.
Okay.
But if there was a connection, yeah, it's something we could do.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken, and thank you to all of you guys who participated. It's a great session.
Thank you very much. Oh, I see another hand. Go ahead, Vince. You want to get yourself off of mute and that. Nope, hand's gone. Okay, so slide over, hit a side if you know. Nope.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, well, now I hear you, Vince. There you are.
Okay, I haven't got my video up there, but
That's fine.
with regards to the forms, if I'm getting this correct, anytime you receive a request for assistance from a veteran, whether it be for a new claim or for an existing claim, you go to Halifax to get the form filled out. Is that correct?
No, if we're doing the paperwork for them, and we're doing the application for them. We'll be mailing out all the paperwork to them. They don't have to come here at all.
Okay, it goes direct to the veteran themselves.
Yeah, we actually, once we have the evidence, once we have everything we need, we actually print the forms off ourselves. That's why they're mostly filled, because we get it right from the Veterans Affairs computer that we have.
Yes.
And then we mail it to the veteran with a cover letter and explanation, and also the medical questionnaires if required.
And then they could come to us at the local branch if they require assistance.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, we try and let them know, okay, you're wherever you are, there's, this is branch X, and yeah, you can contact this service officer at the branch, and he may be able to help you if you need it.
I tell you, I got just new at this game, not a game, at this service. I had the occasion to check out for a veteran if he was eligible for a claim. And of course, Veterans Affairs would not talk to me at all unless I had the consent form filled out.
That's right.
The consent form they sent to me was a 542, I think it was called, or 520.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I never went any further with it because I knew I was getting off on the wrong foot. But the impression I was given was that I never ever heard about the provincial service officer because I was never ever told that they existed. I thought it was all done to the local branch, but the local service officer did all of the fill out the forms and made the meetings with Veterans Affairs and never ever dealt with the provincial command or Dominion command. And so is this a new thing, or how long have you been in service? The provincial command. How long have you had the service officer?
Sorry?
How long has there been a
So I
service
can
officer?
answer that. I can answer that. Since 1926.
Oh my, suffering peace.
And that wasn't me.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
How we get misinformation so bad, I tell you, it just boggles my head.
Yeah,
But
this is why
anyway,
Steve and I are trying to get, when we first started about 4 years ago, we actually had 2 training sessions a year at different locations. And we would send out an all branch mail that what's going to happen because of this COVID stuff. Now we're going to do this, and we'll look at this afterwards and figure out, trying to figure out if there's we'll continue with this type of seminar, or we go back to personal face to face. It's going to be a while before we know what we're going to do with this COVID stuff.
well, I think this seminar, for myself personally, is great because of the fact that we learn from yourselves, but also from the other branches that are participating. Everyone always have a little bit different takes on things. So it'd be nice to be all on the same wavelength, doing the same things, and of course, be able to call one another and help one another out when it comes to these information sessions.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, teamwork. Exactly.
All right, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome, and thank you for asking. And I'm looking. I don't see another hand anywhere. Okay. In that case, before we wrap up, we want to thank Branch 160, Senior Branch here, and Joanne for setting this up, let us use in the facilities, which is fantastic. We had no glitches on the internet, just me and my fingers. Also, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate that. I'm glad to see everyone's interested in learning that stuff. But I think now to wrap things up, I'd like to turn the video over to our president. Right? You'd like to say a few words before we go?
Thanks, Ken. All right, does this put me at full screen?
We can hear you fine. If you want to go full screen, that would be
I don't.
individuals, I think. So go speaker view.
I'll go speaker view.
Yeah,
Okay.
if they all go speaker view, then they can see you full screen.
Okay. Gallery view, speaker view. Speaker view. Well, I'm not seeing that right now. Speaker view, there, oh, speaker view.
We can see you, Marion. We
You can?
Oh, yes, we can see you.
Yeah,
There you
you're
go.
fully visible.
Perfect. All right. So I see lots of comments. I see people thanking everybody and how enjoyable it was. And Betty Simpson from Cape Breton said it's the best seminar she's had in 38 years. So thanks, Betty. We appreciate that. We've heard many references today to manuals and what's in the manuals and how to find that information. It's very important that you keep up to date on the information that comes out in those manuals. And the best way to do that, you can download them and keep them right on your computer from Dominion Command website. And also we have links from ours. Please, please, please download those manuals and familiarize yourself with those manuals. I had an old veteran, and he is also our grand president, who said to me one time, I asked him about how he memorized the general bylaws, and he said, I just read it every time there's a commercial on TV. So read those manuals, familiarize yourself with the information. Nobody says you have to memorize everything, but you should know where to find that information, how easy it is at your fingertips. I've heard a lot of people quoting, not today, but at other times, that they heard it from someone. I heard that. They told me. That's how they told me. Well, there's no such manual as somebody told me. Find out the information from the manuals. It's your best resource out there. Misinformation can only make things more difficult to assist our veterans. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call Valerie at the command office or either one of our service officers. They're there to help. Another question in the chat was, how do we get veterans? How do we find out the veterans in our area? There's many ways to find the veterans in your area. You can put posters up. You can offer coffee clubs. A lot of branches have Facebook or website pages. Put the word out there that you're looking for veterans and you're in your area, that if they need assistance, don't hesitate to call you. Use other veterans in your branch. They might know of some other veterans in the community that have not reached out to you. Keep in touch with your branch membership chairman and make sure that they are contacting any of the new veterans that have joined through the free one-year membership for retiring veterans. That's important to make sure you keep that information up to date. And last but not least, I'd like to thank you all for your attention today at the seminar. I'd like to thank our extremely hardworking staff who continue to amaze me every day with their dedication to our veterans. As you can see from the favorable claims that our veterans have received and the programs that we offer, we are there for our veterans and our family, and that's what they work for every day. I also want to express my gratitude to all of you for all your hardworking volunteer hours that you put in to look after our branches. Our service officers in the branch level, you are the boots on the ground, and you need to help find those veterans and help us to assist them in the way they need and what they deserve. Without you, we can't do the job that we do as well as we can. So I'd like to thank you all very much and continue the good work.
Thank you very much for the great words. Thank you. I guess we're going to wrap it up now. And this one again, also from Steve and I, thank you so much for coming. We so appreciate your attention and putting up with us for a whole day, or half a day. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. So if you have any questions on any of this after the fact, we're always available at Command. Steve and I work Monday to Friday. Just give a call, listen to the prompts, and you'll know which extension to call. And yeah, we'll be there for you. We'll answer any questions we can. And if we can't find it, don't know the question, we'll find the answer for you. Again, that's it for me. Anything for you, Steve?
No, thank you. Thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate your time.
Have a great day, and like they say, stay safe. Bye all.